Welcome back to Running with Coach Tori.
And Jeff.
And we are bringing you the running news from the week, whether it's to entertain you on your long run or to give you something to talk about with your running group. We have got you covered. So, I guess any updates? You've been running. The weather's kind of iffy.
7 days straight, not running 7 days straight,
Working
but 7
out?
days straight of working out. So I've got now a 3-day rotation of run, lifting, and then mobility core. So I'm 7 days in and continuing it. It's not too daunting. It's like, it's relatively easy run. All of it's taking less than an hour. I got an hour a day I can spend doing stuff. So I'm trying to commit to like just every day doing the 1 hour. So I'm 7 days in.
Nice. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's funny
Sounds
that quickly. I feel. I mean, when I haven't been doing a lot of stuff at 62 years old, I feel like I'm 62. So just 7 days in, I feel like maybe it's psychological, but I feel like I have more energy. I feel more willing to just get up and go do those things. I played golf with a friend yesterday. So again, I just feel better. I feel like I'm more physically fit. I know 7 days, I probably haven't transformed my body in 7 days, but just I think probably the psychological aspect of just doing something every day, you feel better.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Keep it up on the streak there. 7-day streak.
How about you?
No, not a lot of working out. Who has the time? Not me, for sure.
I do.
Yeah, right. Some people, I'm sure. No, most of my runs have been like not even on the treadmill outside. It's been on like our walking pad treadmill. So like, there's already logistical issues running on a walking treadmill inside. So, just doing the best I can.
It's something. You just keep moving. Like we said, I think a couple episodes ago was you only need like 20% of your normal volume to maintain, fitness. So, a few weeks at the 20% level, you'll be good. You'll be fine. You'll be able to get right back into it.
Yeah, hopefully. I know I'm already like slacking on my 5 a.m. alarm. I've been missing that a couple times. So
5 a.m. Wow. Yeah.
that's a horrible time. I hate it.
Yeah. Especially in the winter time too. It's one, it's dark. Two, it's cold.
Exactly. Which is why I'm using the inside treadmill, not the outside one. But anyway, I digress. Over the past weekend, I was surprised you didn't have any stories about the Barkley marathons. That happened.
Oh no, I missed that one. I didn't even see any articles on it.
How is that possible? I mean, at this point, it's probably so last week, but I think it was like the weekend-ish, yeah.
So for those who don't know, what's the description of the Barkley Marathon?
Well, I was going to ask you a couple questions about Barkley.
Oh.
Do you know how this past year went?
I don't know how the past year went. I did see the documentary on the Barkley Marathon, which was probably from years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But it does give you some insights on how tough this marathon is. And it's not your typical marathon.
Exactly. So, well, this past year, no finishers after last year, 2024. It was the like record year of, what was it, five?
Yeah, I think it was 5 finishers, yeah.
First female finisher ever. So clearly he obviously had to make the course harder. So if you don't know anything about Barkley, watch, what is it, on Netflix, or I don't know where it is, but it's the Barkley Marathons, the race that eats its young or something like that.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. I'm not sure if it's on Netflix. It's on some streaming service.
Yeah, look it up. It is definitely good. Definitely interesting. But if you're a runner person, I feel like you probably know about Barkley. So one of the hardest races in the ultra running world, created by Gary Lazarus Lake Cantrell. I guess that's his whole name. So I wanted to give you a little bit of trivia. I don't have a bunch of trivia questions because I'm also not like a Barkley, I don't know, aficionado or whatever. But what is the distance supposed to be for the race? Do you know?
52 miles. 52, 54. I think is generally the number, but I may be making that totally up. I had something to do with a prison break, I thought.
Yes, that was like some of the history, something about like and they run through, I think, some kind of like penitentiary area, I believe. But no, it's supposed to be 100 miles. Anyone
Oh,
who's ever run
I
it
was I
says,
was way off.
I know, I was like, oh, that's not even, it's supposed to be 100 miles. Most people who've run it say it ends up like 120 or something.
Okay.
The course changes every year. Um, I believe you don't even get like a GPS watch. This is how bad I'm doing at this trivia game. I'm like just telling
No,
you
no,
facts that
I
might be
think that's
true.
right. I did see something about you couldn't use technology. So,
Do you know the application process? How does one get into Barkley?
yeah, I'm trying to think if there might have been a stuff you should know
I think
episode
so.
on this. So it does. I got some of my facts from them, and again, I'm sure they had it right. My recollection's what's wrong. It is a weird application process, and I think you just send it in via email, but you have to. It's like it's not an essay, but it's some weird process. Is it an essay?
Mm-hmm. Yep, you have to write an essay, and like a few other things, I think. And then, do you know the fee, the registration fee?
Um, yeah, it's a ridiculously like $1.
It's a
Is it?
dollar 60.
Okay.
Yeah, so then once you're accepted into the race, you get a letter of condolences from the race director. And then you have to pay another quote fee where you bring some article of clothing. I don't remember what it was the year they did the documentary, but it's like something like a shirt or socks or some kind of like item. And then if it's your first year, you bring a license plate from whatever state or area that you're from. I guess that's kind of like all I had actually on trivia about it. Um, do you know what it's called if you finish 3 of the 5 loops? So it's a 5 loop course. Each time you switch directions, and then if anybody makes it to the final fifth loop, the leader gets to pick which direction they go, and then everyone consecutively has to alternate if there are others. But do you know what 3 loops complete is called?
No, I do not.
A fun run.
Ah,
So John Kelly, was it John Kelly this year? He, I believe, completed the fun run, but he was the only one, and he's, I think, a two-time finisher of the Barkley marathons. Um, so yeah, so he attested to how hard it is. He actually has an interview on. I know back in the day you were a Tosh.0 fan. Um,
yeah,
Tosh has a podcast, and he had John Kelly on to talk about Barkley.
I didn't know he had a podcast. I'm gonna have to listen to it.
Yes, it is like really random, but he has like really random guests, and yeah, he asked him about Barkley. Um,
And
yeah, well, so that's all I had on that.
do you know how the race director ensures that people are following the course?
Oh my gosh, how did I not ask this? Yes, the book pages. Everyone gets like a number, and you have to rip that number out of the pages, that
Yeah,
page number out of the book.
yeah, you have to turn that in at the end of each, I guess, loop. I'm guessing, or
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. I'm surprised that I don't. And I guess they do make the course tougher of you. I'm not sure how you make it tougher than it really is, but I get because again, it must be obviously tougher. Maybe it's the weather conditions combined with other factors. I guess that
I believe it was hot this year.
okay. Is that yeah? Is that why like John Kelly only gets 3 loops this year, and then the last year was the conditions just great that he got all 5?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It is an interesting marathon though slash ultra marathon.
Yes, no, it's definitely interesting. And another thing is right, like there's not prize money, I don't believe, and it's not really done for like fame and things. It's one of those like runner bucket checklist kind of things.
Yeah, it's
Um,
not. I'm not going to get that one checked off.
no, no, for sure not. Well, also this is kind of touching back to what you were saying about being on your 7 day workout streak, feeling better. A story about Jeannie Rice. Have you heard about Jeannie at all?
I'm embarrassed to say no, I have not.
What? At age 76, Jeannie Rice just keeps running fast. Scientists finally know why. Um, so she is a female marathoner, I guess, but she also holds the world record in her age group. So she's 76. So she's in the 75 to 79 age group. But she holds the record every distance between the 1500 and the marathon for her age group. Um,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
so
impressive. Yeah.
she's quite the runner. I believe she runs like a 3:30 marathon. Oh yeah, 3:33.
At
Um,
76.
yep, new age group record. Um, yeah, no, she's like incredible. Um, and I think she's just been like a lifelong runner as well. And so everyone's like, we want to know why. She's such an incredible runner, and she just like doesn't stop. I mean, it's not like we're just hearing about her. She's kind of always running really well in marathons and things like that. So she went to an exercise lab in England and did, all the testing and stuff. And they said she has the highest VO2 max ever recorded for a woman age 75 or older, and a surprisingly high max heart rate of 180. Um, so I mean, they can't really do like a causation correlation kind of thing. Like, is it just because she's been a lifelong runner? Does she have like, this peak physical condition, or like has she always kind of just been more predisposed to being like that, right? Like a Lance Armstrong thing of like whatever it was, his lung capacity or his lactic acid just doesn't
Or
build
it's
up the chain, or
injections.
right, or you're just a cheater. But
EPO, blood
that
pumping.
example, but like, is it was this just like a genetics thing, because we've talked about that a bunch, or is this
Yeah,
just
it's got.
because she's been running?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my reaction would be it's got to be a little bit of both, right? It's got to be you've got to have the capacity day one, that your high end is hit. Her high end is probably way higher than my high end, even if I ran as much as she did. And then obviously she also runs a ton, so she's getting all out of her potential.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she kind of just, when she was like interviewed, she says that she's just lucky and she's not any different than anybody else, the whole humble yada yada yada.
Yeah, humble.
Um
That's sickening.
right. But she says she does regularly run with people who are younger than her, like in their 40s and 50s.
There's no one
Um
older than her. That's because there's no one older than her.
that's probably true. Um And one thing the article notes is that she, even though she has this very high VO2 max and heart rate, she also, or she, in contrast, her running economy is relatively like just real regular. Um, Quote, it says, was found to be relatively modest for a runner of her ability. So,
Running
you know,
economy, meaning her body movement and calories she's burning isn't any more efficient than other people. I'm assuming that's what that means.
yeah, it doesn't, oh, maybe it does explain. Let me see. Yeah, it didn't really go too much into like what they're exactly defining that as.
Yeah, use of oxygen, how efficient your body is with the use of oxygen. I got to believe it's all part of that economy.
Yeah, how fast you can run given the amount of oxygen. So
Yep. Okay.
there you go. You were spot on. Um, yeah, but so I thought it's just, it's nice to check in with some of the older athletes, because I think it just reminds people that, um, running is for everybody, but also like it doesn't have to, like, it still can be incredible and you can be, like doing amazing things at different ages. So, it's just kind of fun to be like, oh, look at this world record setter.
Yeah. No, movement's good.
Yeah. So that was actually all I had on stories.
All
It was
right.
a light
Well,
week
I'm
for
sorry.
me.
That'll transition me into a couple of things real quick. One was rules of running. So since we're just doing some side stories, I got some rules of running that I'm gonna give you the rule and you tell me what it means.
Oh no.
So yeah, this is a test for you. 80-20. The 80-20 rule. What is that?
Oh, 80% of your runs are supposed to be easy?
Yeah, that's it. That's the 80-20 rule. Okay, this is gonna be you're under pressure now.
Oh yeah, right. All of a sudden my brain just was like, I don't know anything about anything.
80-20. Yes. Yes, that's right. You got it. That 80% of your runs should be in that easy mode. Right?
Who wrote the 80/20 book that you loved?
I don't know. I don't know. I kept quoting it on our old podcast.
You
I
did
love
all
the
the
80-20
time.
rule. I discovered it for the first time at like the age of 58 or something.
Love the 80/20.
How about the five? No, I'll go 10% rule. What's the 10% rule if running?
You should
I,
only increase your mileage by 10% each week when you're building up Mileage?
Yes, you got it.
Oh
That
yeah.
one, Dan, you looked like you were stumped for a second.
I was scared. I was like, "Oh, am I the worst running coach ever?" And the answer is probably yes.
That's not true. Let's see. The other two, I don't know that I don't know that I knew them beforehand. So these are a bit nuanced. The 5% rule.
5%.
Yeah, and it's not. I won't say it's a true rule. So I'll help you out before you because you'll never get this one. That you keep your mileage low if your current weight is more than 5% above your ideal weight.
What?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's such
so
a
so
random
if you
thing.
weigh way more than 5% of your ideal weight, keep your mileage low because of the that extra weight, the pounding on the joints is compounded exponentially um, with that excess weight. So 5 pounds of extra weight may be
Yeah, but that could just be
10 pounds
like,
of force.
did you like eat breakfast today? Like some people fluctuate between like 5 and 8 pounds a day. That's so crazy.
Yeah, it's 5% higher, right? So
Um,
for a 100 pound, well, for a 100 pound person, it's a 5 pound difference. But
yeah. Wow. Okay.
okay, all right. So again, that's a nuanced
That's a
one.
weird one.
This one you might get. It's from it's I quoted it before. It's 40% rule, but it's again not a real rule. It's David Goggins was I guess responsible. It was in his Jesse Itzler book.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
I read that.
you did read that. The 40% rule.
Huh. 40%.
All right, so I'll save you a little bit here. Has to do with fatigue. That's the hint.
Fatigue.
All right, so here it
Wow.
is.
I know, like dead air, right? I'm
All
just
right,
like thinking.
so when your mind is telling you that it's time to quit, you're only 40% done what your body can accomplish. So you
Okay.
still
I
have
was like
60.
kind of there in my head. I was like,
Yeah.
it's got something to do with what you have left after you're tired.
Yep. Yeah. So
Okay.
your mind is screaming, stop, stop, stop. And it's working through that to go past that and tap into that 60% of reserve you still have left.
Okay.
All
And this
right.
is just his idea.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was yeah. So sort of a Navy SEAL thing, I think, is where that came from.
Gotcha.
All right. So we're gonna get into news. So since I was unaware of your first news story, the Barkley Marathon had happened.
Right.
Were you aware the World Indoor Championships happened last week?
There's a chance I may have come across that in a scroll and then just kept on
Just kept on
scrolling.
scrolling. That's so here's some highlights from the World
Oops.
Championships. One, there were no world records set. Were you surprised or not surprised?
Kind of surprised only because I mean, I guess yes and no, right? Like I think we were kind of primed for like records to be happening because that's what we've been talking about for weeks, right? Like the guys are just there, they're chasing them, all this stuff. So like yes, that would be great if that happened there, but also it's like we talked about too, right? Like they can't just keep breaking it because
Yeah.
that's just, not how it works. So I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and I think too that these big events they don't set themselves up for world records because from the standpoint of the runners aren't necessarily willing to go out and put themselves out there. They want to win the race. So
Right. Right.
therefore, like they're much more conservative the first half of a race because they're focused on their kick and that kind of stuff. So I think that like you, I was surprised but not surprised. My favorite runner, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, won 1,500 and 3,000. Surprised? Not surprised.
Um, Not surprised because I feel like we also maybe it was even last week we talked about how he is pretty versatile and kind of ruthless in his training. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, he's peaking too. It seems like he's really dialed in. The USA men swept the 400 meters. Surprised?
Yeah, couldn't tell you a single person it was.
Yeah, I couldn't. I mean, I have them listed here, but I feel like we dominate. I mean, it's funny. The Kenyans dominate long distance running. We seem like we dominate. We don't dominate the 100 meters, although we do have Noah Lyles, but we don't dominate the 200 meters. Although again, we tend to be in the top few. We certainly seem like we are in the medal stand. But the 400 meters, we seem like we dominate the 400 meters. I don't know why that is, but that seems like that's the case. And again, maybe it's perception. We talked about Shelby Houlihan.
Wait, you're not even going to tell me who the guys were? You don't know either?
I could tell you their names, but I don't know that it's Bailey, Christopher Bailey, Brian Faust, Chikari Patterson.
Yep, you didn't need to tell me.
I didn't. Yeah,
No,
maybe
sorry.
again. I'm sure again. No disrespect to them. I'm
Oh,
sure
for
they are.
sure.
Yeah, I just don't recognize their names necessarily. Shelby Houlihan, since we talked about her a few episodes ago, she was the one who finished fourth in the U.S. championships in the, I think it was the 1500 meters, and she was maybe second in the 3000 in the U.S. championships. Um, she came in second overall in the world championships. So she was the one who was banned for 4 years, and I was on my soapbox saying how that's wrong. It's a lifetime ban. But yeah, so I think that was great for her. Surprised, not surprised.
Not surprised because she kind of came out swinging, and she's. I think sometimes people with a chip on their shoulder got a lot to prove. So
Okay,
good for her, I guess.
I'll give you a couple more. One is Grant Holloway won the 60-meter hurdles. I don't know if you know him, but I feel like he's been around for 100 years.
I've heard his name. I honestly couldn't picture him at all, though.
Yeah, he won. Again, he's won a ton. So that's I'm not, I won't say not surprising. So I'm going to answer that one for you. Not surprised.
Fair.
Um, how about Josh Owie? He won the men's 800 meters. He was also the U.S. championship, but we didn't talk a lot about him. I think we may have
Mm-mm.
mentioned his name, but yeah, he's like he feels like I feel like he's the best 800-meter man in the world.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then finally the 4x400-meter relay, both the men and women won. USA, and I say big, the USA men and women won. Surprised, not surprised.
I mean, not surprised given the 400 meters for the men already were like sweeped it, so that makes sense. I feel like now that you mention it, like I do think we have a pretty good group in that like longer sprints area. Who's on the women's team?
I do not know who's on the women's team because it just says the women's results. It just says the full team. I think. Let me just go scroll down. Yeah, I don't think. Oh no, it does. It's just their last name: Hayes, Lear, Afoing, Holmes. That's the women's 400 meters, and
Wow.
I say Afoing, and it's Effiong. I don't know how to pronounce that.
No, and I don't recognize any of those names, but that's I don't follow track and field, so we know this. No shade to all of the good athletes there.
I mean, that's what we do. It's news. It's running news. I know running news isn't necessarily track and field news, but yeah,
I know. I know.
I'm
I
with
need
you.
to.
I mean, and they change from year to year. It's like it's not and it's especially for these world championships, world indoor championships. One, that a lot of top runners like Grant Fisher, that you won't see necessarily all the big names doing this event. So one, it's in China. Two, you have the Grand Slam. A lot of the top athletes are committed to this Grand Slam event, which is in a month. And
Mhm.
so many of them skip because they didn't want to commit to the Grand Slam event a month from now and also do the World Championships in China. So,
That makes sense.
so I have an Ingebrigtsen story as well. And this one is running related, right? So obviously we talked about him, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, and his running accomplishments, including the World Championships, two golds. But on a sidebar, like I guess this past week, he was also in court in a suit against his father for abuse. And I don't know whether you saw any of those stories. I hadn't seen this until I was scrolling through some other stuff. I'm
Hmm.
sure it's huge news in Europe and obviously Norway, where he's from. So, um, did you see any of those stories?
No, I didn't. I saw when you sent, and I like briefly peeked, but no, I didn't. I didn't actually hear this.
Yeah, I didn't know, and it seems like it's. I mean, I guess I'll put it into the sad category in my mind, right? So basically, the allegations of abuse have really relate to the father really pushing the children to be the best athletes in the world, right? So and probably because of that, they are some of the best athletes in the world. Um, but it feels like, at least in their mind, he crossed the line to both physical abuse, like hitting, and threats of like death. And I'm not being necessarily dramatic. That that's part of the story was that in 4 hours of testimony, Jakob sort of laid out some of the allegations against his father. So again, I'm not sure if I'll call it running news, but it's running related news. I don't know if you had any reaction to that story.
How old is he?
He's only like 25, so these out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's young. Um, and so I think one of the allegations too was also it sounds like he and his siblings were sort of broke away from the father who was his coach in 2022. So like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, is when this split started, and I think it started with the father hit the sister with a towel um, in the face, leaving a red mark. So it just got to where it went from pushing to control and physical abuse. Again, these are the allegations. So I think it's a sad story. It does feel like it's where. By the way, the other part of this obviously is the psychological aspect of damage that is done to the children. So Jakob says he's like just really has a hard time now with showing emotion, trusting people, putting himself out there, and I'm sure it's contributed favorably to his running, but it's obviously contributed negatively to from a personal standpoint. So again, sad story. And it's just it feels like it's a story where the father went from being a father to being a coach and just took it to the extreme, and it left the kids without that father figure. So sad.
Yeah, no, incredibly sad. And I think we see, especially in, I think being a parent and mixing parent with any other kind of role is obviously like a tricky thing. But we've seen, especially with coaches, right? Like we talk about Salazar all the time, and just like aside from the cheating and other things, like, there was lots of allegations of different kinds of abuse, right? That wasn't just like, I believe there was sexual abuse involved in there as well, but there was just
There
like
was.
emotional, like all the whole Mary Kane thing, right? She got a pretty large settlement because of just the emotional things that she claimed he did to her. And I think, recent, anybody who's like chronically online, you probably saw the video of I don't know if it was basketball. I don't know if you've seen this. A high school coach just lost his job because whatever happened in the game, and he yanked one of his players'
Oh,
ponytails.
I did
And
see that. Yeah,
okay,
that's crazy.
yeah, and like one of the other girls had to like step in front of him. Like, it's just, yeah, I think there's such a line between motivation and passion and knowing how to push people, but like it should not ever cross that
Yeah,
line. Um, and I think with just like the world we are, and everyone's very sensitive now, but a lot of like parenting ideas have shifted in the past 20 years of like how you shape children, how you motivate children, how you teach them to like understand consequences and things, right? So like that's evolved for better or worse, whatever. But coaching, I feel like still everyone kind of thinks of like, it's got to be the tough love. It has to be, push, 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 and scream at someone until they get the results. And there's not like any way to really do studies on like, oh wow, if I didn't, like if Jakob's father didn't treat them that way, like would they still be incredible athletes? Tough to say. I know Goggins like attributes a lot of his um success and mindset of like why he's such a tough-minded person, I believe, was like abuse at home as well.
yeah, absolutely.
um so yeah, it is tough because I think sometimes people look at that as like, I had to push, I had to, coaches think like I have to just get the most out of someone. um but yeah, I think and obviously like I only coached children. Oh, now I like coach adults, but not like in an in-person kind of setting where I'm ever like yelling at them. um
Yeah,
but
hopefully not.
but I talked a lot on the old podcast, especially in the beginning of the old podcast. It kind of was started just to explain like what the mindset of like how to coach kids to like really want it for themselves. Right. And none of it is like scream, push, threaten, hit, right? Like, really to be able to develop that internal drive to want to do something, like they have to understand the process. They have to care about what's happening. They have to want to do it. And fear is really not driving people to be more successful in those spaces. So yeah, really sad. And again, unfortunate that, like, who's to say what kind of dad that person could have been if he was only a dad and not a dad and a coach. But yeah, I think people definitely take that coaching role too far a lot of the times, and unfortunately we're like still seeing that kind of stuff now. So yeah, just a bummer for sure.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's it is difficult. Um, I do feel like, I think back to my just experiences as an athlete, in high school and college, and those best coaches do become a little bit like a father figure, like those people that you respect, that have great life advice, as well as pushing you and motivating. I mean, tapping into someone's potential and getting the most out of them. Fear is not necessarily the best tool to do that. At least for my experience with just being coached. You know, you want to run for yourself and do. Someone who can tap in and bring that out of you is a skill, and not everyone has that skill. I mean, it's difficult to find what motivates a person, and maybe there are people who are only motivated by fear. And again, I don't think that's true, but that's what that particular coach went to. Um, the Jakob's father. So anyway, I just thought it was worth mentioning, given that I'm a president of his fan club here in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Uh,
Yes.
so hopefully that will all work out. I'm sure that's probably a lifelong devastation that's going to be hard to get through. That you were in court testifying against your father. He's facing 6 years in jail
Yikes.
for these years. Yeah. So
What other sports does his siblings? They're all runners?
yeah, I don't know that they're all. I think the brothers are runners. He got couple of brothers, um, two brothers, and I think a daughter. And I thought the daughter was not a runner, but I don't know for sure. I could read the
Hmm.
article again and tap into that, but I
Right.
won't do that on this call.
Yeah.
That's for the listener. You should go back and read the article. That will be
No,
linked in the
exactly.
show notes.
All the articles will be linked. Definitely go back and give it a read. And yeah, that kind of made me think that maybe we should break down some like coaching philosophies again. Maybe I'll have to look back and see, because I feel like there were so many good conversations about like motivation and coaching on the old podcast. If you haven't listened to Raising Runners, definitely go give that a listen. We had some flop episodes, but we definitely had some good ones too.
What
Um,
flops? There have been no flops.
Maybe not that you were on. There may have been flops when you weren't there. I feel like there was a couple. But yeah, I mean, there really is so much to I mean, it's right, like just like being a teacher, right? It's hard to be a teacher, it's hard to be a coach, it's hard to understand how to like individualize everything for everybody. Um, and you can't make someone care about something more than they do. And if you care about it more, then I think that's when you see those like huge disparities in, you know, you start to become whatever, angry, violent, you get, frustrated. So yeah, I know. I think about this all the time. I'm like, I love to be involved in everything. And I'm like, I don't feel like I could be like little league coach or anything of that sort. I don't feel like it's in my skill set to have that ability to do that without becoming like a crazy person.
Yeah, I think at least all I've seen is, I did do some of that, little kids coaching stuff, and
Yeah.
I do think that what I've seen is people are harder on their own children. They just don't have that ability to step back and coach everyone equally,
Mm-hmm.
whether they're either playing favorites or they're being harder on their own children. So because they expect more from them. So I mean, I think the best coaches are always those ones that are sort of just independent and
Yeah.
able to just use those skills and tap into it and aren't separating out their own children either for good or bad. So
No, I totally agree. And in my limited experience so far of like watching people who coach, especially little kids, like it definitely takes a special person to want to try to teach like 3-year-olds to do soccer. So, I feel like I can go all the way up of like, it really has to be someone who really is passionate about the thing and
Yeah.
people and helping.
No, I agreed 100%. I think as the child, they also don't take coaching as well from their parents
Mm-hmm.
as they do from independent. I mean, it's odd. They just don't. That's
Yeah.
my experience.
No, and I mean, when I again coached like youth running, everyone always was like, it just is different when I tell them to go do this, or they don't want to hear this form correction or whatever it is, right? And it's like you could say the exact same thing, and because you're coach, you're not mom or dad, like it is a totally different thing. And it's like, and you don't have to be, just be mom, just be dad, just be supportive,
Yeah.
because they need that too, all the way
Right.
up.
Well, that's the parenting advice episode that we just gave.
I know, right? It was supposed to be about coaches, and then I kind of just did a whole pivot. I'm stuck on parent mode today, I think.
Yeah. No, no, no. I mean, it was more my. Yeah, I brought this one up, so it was more. This is again not necessarily running coaching directly. It's a parenting thing. So I feel like I brought this one up, not you.
Yeah, now I have to go. I'm gonna go get a tea to soothe my cough, I think, and then maybe go get a run in. Probably my 80% of my 20, or no, 80% of my easy. What am I even saying? Oh my gosh, easy run. 80% of my runs are easy. I've realized though, I'm probably on like 100% easy runs for like a while now. I don't really ever push it at this point. So I'm like, what's that 100% rule? It's just
Yeah.
always easy.
Yeah, I think if unless you're training for something, it's hard to dial up and do those interval trainings. I mean, I did do a lot of them when I was doing the marathon stuff, but it's hard to be motivated to go out and do interval training. I'll hopefully get back to that, but not right now. I'm
Yeah.
with you. I'm doing 100% of my runs are easy runs at the moment.
Well, thank you, everybody. We will be back next week with more nonsensical chats about easy runs and parenting. Like, subscribe, follow, share the episodes. Go check out our old podcast because it does have some really fun topics, and we will see you next time.